Hello and welcome back to the intermediate Java tutorial. Sorry about that file video that was super long. I even lost track of time while doing it. It's going to be a nightmare to render, but that's fine. So let's just go ahead and close this one. Today we're going to do a kind of a shorter one. It's only going to be one class and it's a pretty short class. We're going to be talking about recursion. So recursion is something that you don't really use in programming, but everyone who teaches programming feels the need to teach it. So if you're in the AP class, it's going to be on the AP test, and you're going to need to know it. And it's an important thing to understand, even though you're not going to explicitly use it ever. It's just an important thing to understand. So let's go ahead and make a new Java project. We're going to call it tutorial 08 recursion. Okay, so recursion. So what is recursion? Recursion is basically when a method calls itself. So you can see why that could be a problem. If you don't know what you're doing, you can easily mess it up. So let's pretend like we don't know what we're doing. Let's go ahead and make a main class with the main method. We're going to go ahead and make a method. We're just going to call it infinite recursion. It's going to take an integer. Alright, so what is wrong with this? So let's just sys out. Alright, so return n minus 1. So recursion is when a method calls itself. So you can actually, in any method, you can also call the method. So infinite recursion n. Oh, that's why. This needs to be an int. Infinite recursion n. So let's go ahead, let's see what happens when we call this. Infinite recursion. And we're going to go ahead and just give it 10. So what's going to happen? An exception. What's this? Oh wow, this went on for a long time. Stack Overflow error. So what it did is it tried to call this method over and over and over and over again, and nothing ever got it to stop. So it eventually decided to just stop. The stack was overflowing. So this is just something you need to understand. Whenever you have something that has a recursion, you need a stopping point. So let's go ahead and comment this out so that we don't have to use this, and add a suppress warning so that we can keep this in here so that you guys can understand what's wrong with it, but your compiler doesn't, freak out. So let's go ahead. Oops, I highlighted everything. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's make a good recursion. So the classic example of recursion is to make a factorial. So let's just go ahead and do private static int factorial. So in case you didn't know, a factorial is the number multiplied by all the numbers leading up to it. So a factorial of, say, 5 is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So we're just going to go ahead and do factorial int n. So it's going to take the factorial of that integer. So first we're going to make an integer result. And then we're going to return result. Alright. So let's give those a value. So if, now this is going to be our stopping point. In is less than or equal to 1. Result is equal to 1. Alright, so what it's doing is if it's equal to 1, it's going to be 1 or less than, because you can't get recursion of a negative number, so we're just going to catch that by doing 1. Okay, so else result is equal to n times factorial n minus 1. So okay, I'm sure this looks really weird to you. So let's go ahead, let's break this down. So we give it a number. So it's let's say we do factorial 5. So let's actually do that. Factorial 5. Actually, let's sys out that. Sys out factorial 5. Alright, let's print it out. We got 120. So what is that? What's actually going on here? So we have int n. So result is n times factorial n minus 1. okay, so that is 4. So now it's calling it again int 4, so it's greater than 1, so now it's 4 times factorial this. So now we have that, and then we do it again with 3, so now it's 3 times factorial 2, which is 2 times factorial 1, which is 1. So now this can return 1, which means 2 times 1 is that, times, then when it goes to 3, it's going to be 2 times 1, which is 2, 3 times that, which is 5, and then do 4 times 5 when it's 5, and then finally at 5 times 5, and it's going to be the end of the stack. The stack, I might talk about a stack. A stack is just pretty much how programs work. Stacks are a very, very important concept in computer science. So that's how it works. It works on the last thing that you put in is the first thing that comes out. So the last thing we end up putting in would be 1. So that's the first thing that's going to come out. And then it's going to go up until it gets... And then, so once it has 1, it can actually find the rest. So the 1 for 2, 4, 3, and 5. So that's what's actually going on here. So it's really confusing. We can actually, let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here. Toggle breakpoint. And let's actually look at it working. So let's actually go ahead and we're going to show you how to debug. So we're going to go ahead and open the perspective for debugging. So it's going to look completely crazy and different. So, okay, so n value is 5. Oh, I probably should have put it at a different place. Okay, let's actually change where we put this breakpoint. Toggle this breakpoint. Okay, so yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Oops, what happened? Oh, we want to debug. Here we go. Name value. Okay, so n is 5. Oh god, why isn't it? Let's try that. Debugging. Here we go. Result is 1. So this was the last thing it called. Result 1. So next thing, n is 2, result is 2. 2 times 1. Then n is 3, result is 6. Right? 2 times 3 is 6. And then 4 times 24. And then 4 times 6, 24. And then 5 times 24. Okay, so that's recursion. So as you can see, it did it from the bottom up. And then it finally, we do that, and then the program's over. So we can go ahead and disable this breakpoint. So that's how you debug in Eclipse. It's a kind of a nice little thing right there. So let's go ahead. So that's that. So we can actually just, let me show you it working with multiple numbers. Let's just do 8 and let's do 1. So that's the factorial of 8, and that's the factorial of 1. So I even showed you guys some debugging stuff. So you got a little extra of just Eclipse. And most IDEs have debugging similar to that. So yep, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. And it should be close to New Year's. If the last one came out on the 27th, New Year's Eve is in 2 days. So I won't be posting something on New Year's Eve. Obviously, I want you guys to have a nice New Year. So I'm going to wait until January to start posting again. So I have a very, very happy New Year, and have a great day. Goodbye.